And now let me select one more text since I finished reading that one. So again, random selection, extending the gift of life. Whenever you deny a blessing to a brother, you will feel deprived. This is because denial is as total as love. So you cannot be just slightly irritated at someone and not lose out, because that irritation, even though it's a small one, comes from the ego. It's like thoughts of anger, slight irritation about something happening, and thoughts of murder are actually the same because the source is the same, the ego. So whenever you deny a blessing to a brother, you will feel deprived. This is because denial is as total as love. So it's very important not to deceive ourselves, because the ego will always try to pass unloving thoughts for loving ones as it wants to survive. So it will deceive you as though you're thinking through the higher self, although you're thinking through the ego, and it will diminish those negative attitudes so that you might feel them very little in order to pass them as love or some kind of aspect of love. That's why it's very important to be aware of these tricks of the ego so that you think through the Holy Spirit and not through the ego. It is as impossible to deny part of the sonship as it is to love it in part. So selectivity again, whom to love, whom to make friends with, whom to be with, is coming from the ego, because the Holy Spirit sees everyone as lovable, everyone as innocent, everyone as one. Nor is it possible to love it totally at times. So again, it's coming from the ego. If sometimes you are loving and sometimes you are not loving, because it's the ego that is discontinuous and chaotic, but God is always the same. It can only love. You cannot be totally committed sometimes. Remember a very early lesson. Never underestimate the power of denial. It is no power in itself, but you can give it the power of your mind, whose power is without limit of any kind. If you use it to deny reality, reality is gone for you. So when we perceive lovelessly, what we are doing is we are causing distortions, and through doing this, we create the veil that prevents us from seeing reality. So this is the same as not wanting to really see. We start sleeping. We perceive brothers as enemies. But there is also power of positive denial, which is denying that which is not true, denying our negative thoughts. They are not real. They are coming through the ego, which doesn't even exist. This is the only positive use of denial. Reality cannot be partly appreciated. That is why denying any part of it means you have lost awareness of all of it. So you see, you cannot leave to yourself small irritations about someone, small annoyances, small jealousy, small grudges against someone. Because by leaving this in your heart, the veil will not be destroyed. You will still perceive falsely. Once you really drop all the attack and desire for seeing others as guilty, only then you can perceive as it really is. That is why denying any part of it means you have lost awareness of all of it. That is the negative side of the law as it operates in this world. But denial is a defense, and so it is capable of being used positively as it is of being used destructively. Used negatively, it will be destructive because it will be used for attack. But in the service of the Holy Spirit, the law becomes as beneficent as all of the laws of God. Stated positively, the law requires you only to recognize part of reality to appreciate all of it. Mind is too powerful to be subject to exclusion. You will never be able to exclude yourself from what you project or extend. When a brother acts insanely, he's offering you an opportunity to bless him. His need is yours. So it's your own guilty mind projecting this onto the brother, calling for an attack so that the guilt is kept in your mind. But if instead of attacking, you see it as a call for love and you respond with love, then you start healing your mind. You need the blessing you can offer him. There is no way for you to have it except by giving it. So you cannot be healed if you continue perceiving others as negative, as harming you, as judging you, and so forth. It's by overlooking the so-called sins of others, understanding that it's the veil that you're looking at and behind it is the Christ, that you start healing yourself. Because the deepest level of your mind knows that we are all one. So when you judge others, you're actually judging yourself. This is the law of God, that there's no way for you to accept the blessings if you don't give them. And it has no exceptions. What you deny, you lack. Not because it is lacking, but because you have denied it in another and therefore are not aware of it in you. So if you cannot see love in others, how can you see love in yourself? And then people go in search of love and they are faced with the loveless world. Instead of doing that, understand that what you see is a veil and allow the Holy Spirit to see through you and it will show you love, because it will send, as it's told in A Course in Miracles, messengers of love that will go forth into the world and they will search for any kind of loving thing and attitude that others had towards you, and that will be shown to you, and then you will understand that this world has love. But if you perceive them through the ego will send messengers that will go in search for things that keep you separate from your brothers and sisters, and that is indeed easy for them to find. So the ego finds fault with anything. It can find negative things in the most holy person because of the way that this person was seen through the ego. Every response you make is determined by what you think you are, and what you want to be determines what you think you are. Therefore, what you want to be determines every response you make. So if you really want to understand you are the son of God, the child of God, then you will accept the thinking of the Course in Miracles and you will look through the sins, so-called sins of others, understanding it's a veil, and you will see them as they are. And as a result of that, you will perceive yourself as you are. This is the way to remember who you really are, that you are a spirit and not this body. You do not need God's blessing because that you have forever, but you do need yours. The picture you see of yourself is deprived, unloving, and very vulnerable as a body. You cannot love this, but you can very easily escape from it, or better, leave it behind. You're not here, and that is not you. Do not see this picture in anyone, or you have accepted it as you. So when you see others as bodies, you're affirming to yourself as you are that you are the body. But if you understand what you're seeing is a veil, a projection that your mind projected upon your brothers and sisters, and we are all Christ. When that's what you affirm to yourself and that's how you forgive, eventually you understand your true source and your true nature. All illusions about the sonship are dispelled together as they were made together. Teach no one that he is what you do not want to be. Your brother is the mirror in which you will see the image of yourself as long as perception lasts. So if you judge them, if you don't like them, what will you think about yourself? And perception will last until the sonship knows itself as a whole. You made perception, and it must last as long as you want it. Illusions are investments. They will last as long as you value them. Values are relative, but they are powerful because they are mental judgments. The only way to dispel illusions is to withdraw all investment from them, and they will have no life for you because you have put them out of your mind. So what happens is that, and I will finish it here because it's a very long chapter. But what happens is that as we forgive others and we keep saying to ourselves that what we see is not true. We're looking at as though as at a movie and behind it is the Christ. We start getting in touch with the spiritual side of life because we keep affirming that our brothers are spirit and then we perceive ourselves as spirit. And this gives us access to God, access to Christ, until that communication becomes totally undisturbed, continuous, and then indeed we know our true nature. Another way to perceive other bodies is as though they are puppets, and the spirit is identified as though it's acting through the puppet, but the spirit does nothing, it just watches. And it's not even true seeing, it's only perception. That's why it's told in A Course in Miracles that we are really asleep, dreaming a dream. So when we go to sleep and we perceive ourselves as some character in the dream, we indeed see through the eyes of the character and we think we are indeed that character, but we are in bed dreaming. The same thing applies to us. We never loved God. We are only having this illusion, this dream that we are here. And so through forgiveness, we start freeing ourselves from this dream until we understand our true nature.